Hello, hello, hello. You're listening to the MarkeThinkers Podcast. We'll take you on a journey to the world of digital marketing to discover innovative ideas, evocative solutions, and the latest updates in our industry because digital first is the new rule. We are your MarkeThinkers. My name is Jim.
And I'm Carissa.
So let's get the market thinking started. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome, Carissa. How are you?
I'm very good. I had a great weekend and a very busy one. How about you, G?
I also had a good weekend. I had a short staycation at Marriott. So I am
Wow.
feeling a good a good vibes right now and for this week as well. Um, as you notice, everyone, we are back online from our previous two episodes. We have been on live or in a studio, but now we're back online for safety reasons, of course, and of course to produce more content for you guys.
I don't remember when was the last time we did our podcast episode, so I feel that it's again pretty new to me, and but it's nice.
So for today's episode, we have a very special edition again because we have a special guest and not just an ordinary guest, an international guest. So for today's episode, we're calling it Adding Content Creation as a Service to Your Marketing Agency. So let's welcome our host, Scott. Hello, Scott.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me. Yes, good introduction, and I'll happily share any ideas from international perspective, global perspective, or even just something that's useful for your audience. So happy to answer any questions. You go ahead.
Yes.
All
How have
right.
you been doing, Scott?
Yeah, very good. I think obviously just need to be, as an agency owner and an entrepreneur, you just need to be proactive, thinking ahead. Don't get too comfortable. Always try be thinking about what could happen and anticipate, if you've got a lot of competition or even just trying to keep your clients happy, retain them. So lots to do, but yeah, I think we maybe have a unique approach where we do try to do a range of things, not just focus on one aspect. I think that just helps pull in new business all the time. So that's kind of what we do.
That's cool. Well, we're really looking forward to new learnings and knowledge that we will get from you, Scott. All right, so let's get right into it. So, for the first question, Scott, what is content creation and why is it important for business nowadays?
Sure. Okay. Well, I guess I could probably mention. So the company that I've started and been working for about 6 years now is LaunchPad Technologies, and essentially that's a marketing agency that's sort of an umbrella just for a range of different services that we can help people out with. It tends to be people that are self-starters, entrepreneurs, or it could be companies that are running some campaigns. But it's just a fairly dynamic. People are looking to do things efficiently. So for content creation, my take on it is that it's basically a digital experience that relates to your brand, products or services. But mainly it leaves you with a feeling. It's something memorable. It's a little bit different than maybe the older technology or old marketing methods where it's, you print something or you distribute it and rely on traditional channels. Like it's really something that hopefully is, it stays within you. You see it once and you remember it, and there's a lot more emotion involved. So yeah, it's tricky. I don't think it's well understood by most people. So that's what makes it exciting. It's good to share ideas on, what it means for each person. So
Okay. Content marketing is not new to you. I think you had a previous experience with that. Yeah, just for the backgrounder, Scott's company was our client pre-pandemic, and you visited our office before, and your team in our company, and yeah, we had a lot of experience doing what was that, the eating gym
is that
boodle fight.
no,
Yeah.
yeah, we did Boodle Fight for sure, and we did some kind of Jollibee tasting, which was a kind of a fun little studio
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
Cultural and just kind of content creation. I mean, content creation could be anything, right? And that's the idea. But from our point of view, it's just tying it back. We do provide. We started providing this as a service. It's probably one of the latest things we ended up doing, which was, we can help with lots of different marketing solutions, but content it's a bit scary for people to get into, and it's even scarier for an agency because you have to be relied upon to do it well and to give good advice. So yeah, so we did a lot of research, and we even tried our own production so we can learn as well and evolve and try to find some new new formats that make it easy for people to do it at home. Yeah, so content creation is, it's as you know, a lot of people are doing it already. They do it in their personal life. And so crossing over into business seems like, well, how can you use TikTok for business? And, should you be putting out regular updates for your business? And it really depends on, I think the answer is yes, of course, if you're a business and you actively need to be proactive, but there's a right way to do it and there's an inefficient way, which probably isn't bringing you any sales. And it probably is a lot of work as well. So I don't know. I think from our point of view, it's important to look at how do you need to spend your day, and where can you, how important are new clients, and you got to balance the new clients and the existing clients. So I'm happy to answer your questions. Maybe there can be some interaction after the video in the comments field if people have thoughts about what they're doing. But from our point of view, it's just a strategy. First, it starts about, well, what are you doing? What is your business goal? Perhaps even your personal goal within that business. And then from there, you got to look at your resources. So who is actually going to be able to do it? Because most people, as you know, content, it's easy to start something and then it just drops off. And that's the case with most of our clients, is that they maybe can get the energy to put one episode together, but then they're not going to touch it for 2 more years. That's just, it's a nice idea, but you do need some help with that. That's kind of probably where we come in as a service. We just ensure that the plan is there, but if they need help to maybe have a continuity, even if it's like 1 a quarter, 4 times a year, at least it's regular. So that's very important, is to be regular. And, you can find your tone of voice too. That's the other thing. As you know, it can be very playful and upbeat, energetic, or it can just be very simple and short. It's a little bit of an experience again. People are busy, so if they can actually just watch your message, it just gives them some connection, so you don't have to keep following up all the time with different, customer type relations. So.
Right. Well, it will be a good sign to hear some refreshing take about content creation, because as for the audience, as a background refresher, Scott and our agency go way back pre-pandemic, and we have been providing services, especially in content creation for them. And of course, it will be a different scene now, since after the pandemic, a lot of changes, a lot of updates have happened, especially in the digital world. So we'd be excited to hear more about it, especially the changes in Australia. So another question is, can you tell us more about your content creation and the target market there in Australia?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so content creation, in our target market, like as mentioned, we primarily work with businesses, and these are businesses with maybe up to 10 employees. These aren't large companies. So they have to be fairly smart about who's contributing and how they're doing it. We work a lot in the healthcare sector. There's sort of some mom and pop type stores where they've started up like a product and they're looking to distribute it and market it. So kind of a range, but it all comes back to, I suppose, looking at their sales cycle. I mean, we tend to be quite focused on where's the money coming from and how do you ensure a constant stream of new business, because that's going to help the businesses grow. That's just a simple approach we take to it. And nurturing the customer. We use this word nurturing a lot. It's really just a sense of a nice, soft ramp up of communications where, sometimes marketing, you want to shout the big message, but people are so smart these days, they'll just tune that out. Nobody likes to listen to advertising or anything even close to it. So you really have to be gentle and be authentic. And, ultimately working with your team, it was helpful from a resource point of view. We had the plan and the ideas, but we needed some people to actually, support the requests customers would want. Even if it's something as simple as, well, I need this video edited. Well, you need someone that can have the right touch and make it look the certain way according to your brand. Yeah. Okay, and then so in terms of the cultural aspects, I do think actually because of the social media is so all over the world, I think it starts to blend in. So you'd be surprised. I think what's popular or works in, say, the Philippines, maybe quite common and works equally well in Australia or in the US. So I think that's just the benefit of having everybody on one platform, and obviously the big giants control everything. So the TikTok algorithm will dictate how things get celebrated, and Facebook has their own algorithm, and YouTube. So obviously there's that aspect, and I can touch on a little bit later because that was part of our learning about, well, how can you learn the algorithm and learn these little hacks on how to get more views or get it in front of your target audience. But ultimately, I think that's the big thing with content is don't try to chase a number. Really understand that as long as you get your message in front of the right people, that's all that matters. So even if it's 500 views, 1,000 views, if it's in front of real prospects, real people that would likely buy from your business, that's a very efficient way to do it versus the old world of maybe handing out flyers or knocking on the door. So as long as people are understanding to focus on the performance of that's the first step, really, to be realistic about how are you going to get in front of these people. And we can talk a little bit about advertising and the role that plays. You mentioned it at the beginning. It's sort of content creation, but also ads, because that's where the platforms try to make their money, right?
I agree with that. Because as we all know, we're applying the digital first approach in our customers, and it's all about being present where the customers are, no matter what the customer stage is, either on awareness, on desire, on action. You should be present, you should be active, and you should be available to contact or for communication. Now, I can see that you have a lot of projects going on, and I know that there is the Aussie Ambitions. So can you tell us how did you come up with it and what was the inspiration for that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was a fun one to be able to start, and it's interesting when you look at what role, how can you contribute. I think really that's one thing we encourage people to do anyway in life, in business, is how can you contribute in some way. There's a lot of different topics out there. A lot of things have been done already, so you can try to maybe do your own version of it. But yeah, I was really surprised that there wasn't anything that was really highlighting Australian aspect of entrepreneurship and people that are just kind of going and trying to achieve things. And you get younger people and older people. There's just a whole world of people that we discovered, and it was just a chance to experiment a little bit with the podcasting format. And it was new to us. We had to actually buy some equipment and have a space, work on the workflow of scheduling, and try to work out how to fit this into a more traditional business where you're just sitting at a computer and working on client services and things like that. To be able to have like a scheduled environment for filming is quite different. So ultimately it was kind of a mix of let's celebrate and let's just give a bit of a platform for these local everyday people that are working hard and passionate, and just bring that in front of the camera and just see what kind of magic can come from that. And it was kind of neat. Like the guests really, you could see the glow. Like you give them a chance to talk about what they were doing, and there's no scripting or anything like that. It's just it's a really organic way to give them a format to share. So it's kind of efficient in that way, is that you don't have to rehearse or anything like that. They've got their pitch down so sharp that you just need to get in front of the camera, turn it on for 5-10 minutes.
So they just have stories to tell.
Yeah, I mean, we would come up with some potential. I mean, it helps to have a curious mind, and I think myself, I wasn't Australian born, so I'm always interested about where do people come from and how can what they're doing benefit others in terms of just. And a lot of people are curious about what life is like here too, so that does help that there's a natural audience for it. But yeah, ultimately, it was just about expanding a bit of a network for us too. It was a chance to look and actually offer something for free. That's something I'm a big advocate of, is when you want to build new relationships, if you can basically volunteer, a little bit of a trial or an experience, and then they can see, oh wow, that was quite enjoyable, and then maybe talk to them about if they want to do that for their own business and so on. So it's a bit of a lead generation as well.
Okay, that's nice. I've watched one episode of your Aussie Ambitions, and yeah, they come from different backgrounds, different walks of life, and they're just very passionate telling their stories, when you listen to them. So how did you get people to guest on your show?
Yeah, that was interesting. We actually started very early, and the interesting ones are right at the beginning, because that's when you're just finding your format. Even if you have a topic and you have a plan and you have a bit of an idea, you really need to just make it happen. So those very early episodes are quite interesting. And you're just on the lookout. That's the other thing. When you're a host and you're representing not only your business but the audience. You're actually having to speak on a regular basis to your audience. You're always looking through in terms of who you know or who you've met, or so it does force you into a new type of a role in life, constantly like networking, not in a over the top way, but just in a, oh, that's interesting, that would make a good topic to discuss. And so it kind of is a neat little approach in that sense. But we primarily used, when it really came down to it, was LinkedIn, because we're looking at professionals that are openly showing or showcasing and celebrating what they're working on. So in that sense, it made it fairly straightforward, because and they use a lot of hashtags. So it's very easy to search for. If I want to do a topic on cybersecurity, just have a look through the feed. So we did use some modern tools, just, essentially social media, to find out who's putting themselves out there. We did a lot of looking on Instagram as well. So you got Instagram, you got LinkedIn, Facebook, you got Facebook groups. So it is easier than it's ever been to find people in your world. And that is a good exercise anyway, if you're running a podcast or not. If you're looking for clients and you want to build your service or product, really that should be the starting point, is where are people gathering and how can you just organically participate in that discussion, not selling from day one or not trying to sell a service or anything, just genuine interest and a genuine appreciation for what's going on. I think that's a really gentle way, but a really solid way to do business nowadays. So LinkedIn was very, it was a nice tool, because a lot of people don't use it aggressively as like Instagram's a different story. There's lots of different people trying to buy and, promote themselves and all sorts of stuff. But LinkedIn is a little bit more traditional. So that was kind of nice for professional networking.
Okay. Yeah. LinkedIn is a good tool. So, is there any particular podcast episode that struck you the most, and why?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely So Unique, because we set it up on purpose to have kind of all walks of life, people that were early in their career, people that were just trying something like non-traditional, like maybe trying to be an influencer. We got people that were well established, like a business professional, people that trained for many years at the end of their career and looking at other goals. So you really get a sense of the spectrum of what's important to people over their life. And I think overall, the ones that I appreciated were where I could really open my eyes, and where there's a potential transformation there. So the most interesting one, I think, was probably my first episode, because it was so interesting, because we found someone that was quite early on in their journey. And looking back now, it's been 2 years, almost, a little bit over 2 years, and you can see how far they've come. So this would have been our episode 1. We had a TikTok creator, which at the time, I think TikTok really was big in Asian countries before it came to Australia. So even before it took off in Australia, and I think he mentioned he's getting close to about 50,000 followers, and that was big at the time. And he's gone on. His name's James Longstaff. He's doing a very sort of entertainment style content, but his goal was really to do that full time, and then to spin that into, a money making business. And to see him so many years later, he's got almost getting close to 1 million followers.
Wow.
So you really see the evolution, and I think there's a lesson there and a bit of a model that people can say, look, if you stick to it, it's just a matter of time. And that's probably the number one advice we would give to people in business. You got to stick to it, and then just persist and use the method and pull in the tools and resources and things. But yeah, so that was really exciting to see someone that's achieved something, and you can tell that they're confident. It says, before they were just kind of they were confident in what they were doing, but you could tell it was unproven. They didn't know if it was going to lead to anything, and then now you can even see the rise. So I think that's exciting to meet with people at that point in their career. And then on the other side, you got someone that's maybe more of a mature business owner, someone that's done it for many years. And then you want to learn from all the wisdom, but I found it interesting that they were more interested about, even then they still had other goals to go. So just when you think they've made it and they've got everything they could ever want, there's still other things. So when you have like a passion and maybe entrepreneurial spirit, you are always looking to grow, to rise, to evolve. And that was sort of an interesting learning as well. So It was, lots of things that can come. I guess there's episodes we're going to try to keep that going. It's a neat concept. I've encouraged anyone interested to do it. It's a nice, easy one to start in your own, even in your own community. It's just to celebrate people that are doing things. I think that's a nice topic to chat about.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a question for you, Scott. How do you find podcasting or being a podcaster in general?
Well, it's definitely a growing exercise. So for people that are, obviously having some professional experience, you're used to engaging with people and having a discussion, but you do have to have a little bit of a inquisitive mind. Just be curious to be able to, and actually to listen, to hear what they're saying, and be able to actually just have a conversation. I think that's practice with anything, but these days you don't want polished. Nobody really wants to watch perfection and acting and infomercial type. So the more just not casual, but I think if you can just be authentic and off the cuff and genuinely express, I think having appreciation for your guests is the number one thing. It's like, hey, look, I appreciate you coming in, and I was curious about this, and tell me a bit about that. And if it goes somewhere, great. If it doesn't, you can just move on and let them ask questions too, because for them, you get to see how their mind thinks. So
I think it's the same thing here in the Philippines, because the audience here probably like the most authentic shows or videos that they can see. They don't like anything that intimidates them in general. So if it's off the cuff, funny, or really informal, or not really edited professionally, that would gain more views here compared to those that are highly produced.
It's true. It's fun to have a little backup, a little backup gimmick. And this is again off the cuff. I just got something here. I wasn't planning to bring it, but having a little prop, for example.
Wow.
This is again, it's totally random. This is the ambition wheel. So you'd spin it, and then you'd kind of land on a topic. It just makes it a little bit more interactive. So I think to gamify it is fun for people. They come in, your guests will be nervous. Even if you think you're, as the host, you're like, oh, I have to organize this, and the guest will be way more nervous than the host will be. And so your job is to make them at ease. Those are just fun things. But I think having a little bonding activity. You can call it an icebreaker. It gives you a little bit, make it light for your audience too. When we did our recordings, we were pretty much straight conversation. It was kind of lighthearted, but it's a long format, and so I don't think there's a big audience for that these days. Everything needs to be short, and that's okay. I think that's probably the thing with content creation is what was a format. You got Joe Rogan podcast 3 hours with Elon Musk, 3 years ago. I mean, he's an exceptional guy, so people would still watch that now. But those longer formats, it's just people's attention spans are much, much shorter. So you got to be thinking, okay, really, really, really short formats. And that's something we've, as ourselves, even for myself, I'm looking at, well, how do I grow and get to that next level? Obviously, it's a generational thing. Younger people are able to kind of just get in TikTok mode and do it. But you got to combine the business expertise with the audience and the platform, and that's where I think you can break it down to some simple methods. So just be really clear about the message, and that's one thing we spend a lot of time working on. Is content is the real value is in the message. Just be as clear as you can. Use as minimal words as you can.
Right. Well, speaking of activities, I hope you're ready for our fast talk later, but we'll get into that at the end of the episode. So now, I think you also have this new personal project of yours. So can you tell us what is it called, and what, again, is the inspiration for that?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, again, this is on trying to lead by example, and I have a real strong belief that people should have balance in their lives. People should be able to live their lives every day, even if you're running your own company and being an entrepreneur. You don't want to leave it too late to experience great things along the way. So it sort of comes off the back of ambition and working on something and entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship is definitely part of it. And the other part of it is living your life and having adventures. So the concept is entrepreneurship adventures, those two things together. So I've gone to YouTube is sort of the starting point for that, and eventually it'll be like an ebook released, which is basically just a tips and tricks on, how you could do it yourself. But the idea is to live a life that is a little bit alternative. So you have to be able to tolerate a bit of uncertainty, a little bit of risk. But as you know, people are a little bit more mobile these days. You don't, in terms of employment, there's the freelancer world. There's a lot of tools that make it possible now. And so I want to kind of celebrate that and just kind of show that people can look at businesses and just kind of running your own show. Running your own business, and do it in a way that you can combine it with your personal interests. So, for example, if you really love travel, you can mix travel with some aspect of business, and let the experiences shape where you go with that. So, obviously, it's a little bit tricky because things cost money. You need to make money, but yeah, the model is there. Just I'll go out into the world. We have little adventures, and I'll be looking at opportunities and just share some knowledge, really. If I spot something and I think, hey, this would be a great business idea, I'll just put it out there, and it's a freebie. I want people to go out and try things. So, it's a little bit of the enhanced vlogger life, I suppose.
Well, I think it's a very good idea because entrepreneurship and the word adventure are two different things, or both at the end of the spectrum, right? So I think that's a good idea, and I believe experience is the best teacher after all, because it's different from learning from just a book or from just a thing that you've listened to, and it's a different learning experience when you actually experience something or experience something new, right?
Yeah, and I think the idea of taking risk is sort of like, there's a lot of metaphors in the whole thing, but obviously going somewhere new, trying somewhere new. Business is very much like that, and existing business owners would know that things can go very wrong on some days, and you have to be able to suck it up and adapt. And I just think maybe it's something for the younger generation to kind of realize that they've got some options there, and maybe to shape their people that will really benefit. I think is the freelancers, people that realize they could do something with a skill, and even for people that want to reinvent their careers. As you know, the job market's changed quite a bit. It's good to have a stable paycheck, but at the same time, you've got to enjoy what you do. And so maybe there's a way to, if you like cooking, maybe there's something in combining. I think content creation always has a place here, because you are essentially creating something and sharing it to the world. And that's a very, very amazing concept that's not going anywhere. And it's really, the fruit is there for people to go and pick. But to make money from it is, of course, the trick. And that's where we'll share. And every 6 months, it'll be a little bit different. There's always something new. So we'll have to stay on our toes to find out. So we're coming to the Philippines to look. What's the latest? There's always, travel is the big eye opener. I think anywhere you go, there'll be new learnings that people have not yet seen. So as long as there's no secrets, we want to share everything we see.
And you put a lot of insights in every travel you do. Like when I see that you are a very observant person. When you go to a place, you always observe and tie up with the things you are experiencing right now. That's what I notice about you in your videos.
Yeah, I definitely know. Like there's the Mr. Beast style YouTube where he's just over the top and he's like really animated, and perhaps that's a style that's needed. And that maybe is something for someone else to do. For me, it's just I want to try to be very succinct and just try to learn some, almost like having a coach by your side, a business coach by your side wherever you go. And and you might not realize when you're at the supermarket and you're trying to pick your, should I get that item, that bottle of shampoo, or that one? There's little lessons there, and it may seem simple. I'm very positive most people don't think that way, but it's just over the years my brain's been sort of trained to overanalyze things, and it might just be fun to kind of dissect. They're like, well, that's interesting. I didn't realize, I picked that shampoo because it was right in front of my eyes. The better one, the more expensive one. There's lots of different reasons, consumer psychology, and maybe there's a little lesson in that, in doing what you're doing.
That's nice. So in terms of that's the content creation you're doing. Aussie Ambitions, Entrepreneurship Adventures, the company you have right now for content creation services. It's all about content creation. So what marketing platforms or channels you use to amplify your message, your projects and your company services?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're kind of paying close attention to what is the most efficient. We still, for something that's e-commerce based, we do a lot of e-commerce solutions because that's a natural extension to when you've got something to sell easily. It's a digital platform for e-commerce. Then content creation is very easy to boost some traffic and lead to a sale. I think Google Ads is still very functional, very efficient in terms of, I guess, ROI, return on ad spend as well. So Google Ads is definitely there. We're very cautious with social media spending, like Facebook ads and boosting, and it really does depend on the audience, and there's a lot of things happening there. So I think Google is still the king in that space. I'm very, very interested in the influencer market, though, in terms of how those audiences are very, very, very responsive, a lot of them. You got to be careful. You got to sort through the fluff of who's actually influential and who isn't. But if you can sort that through, and there's a lot of emerging companies that are really organized to be able to say, here's the track record, here's the performance for these brands, we spent this money and it led to this amount of sales and clicks and so on. So yeah, I think influencer marketing is very powerful done, as long as it's not a scam. You got to be able to work with legitimate creators. Other than that, I do love LinkedIn for business. I think it's kind of a really clever way. So it depends on what you're selling and what your market is. But I imagine that for any marketing agency owners out there, if that's who's listening in, you're going to have a range of clients that are probably selling to the consumer. And so therefore you got to think, where are the eyeballs and where are people most animated and most receptive to your message? So TikTok, of course, is very, very interesting. And I've seen some ads come through there, and I see some sponsored posts, and I like the way I see it because it feels good. It feels like a really nice, it doesn't feel like you tune it out, even as a consumer. So I just like that that's done. And we're just learning that we don't offer TikTok support at the moment, or TikTok services, but we're paying very close attention because you can see everyone's trying to copy them. Facebook's trying to copy them. Instagram's trying to copy them. Snapchat's trying to copy them. And, it's just absolutely magic. And I think that's kind of, for all the big corporate world that it is, you can't deny the experience of it. It's very addictive. And somehow the targeting, it comes to you. And it's like matchmaking, the interest with the relevant product or service. So I think that's a pretty good fit. It doesn't feel like overly commercial at this stage.
Yeah, every platform has its own usage, and own target audience. So yeah, I'm very excited to, like I always tell it to our founder, that maybe in the future, 5 years from now, TikTok is what we're going to use as a major platform for our clients. So we have to really stand by and observe the platform and jump in, even though you're not an influencer. At least you know what's happening inside the platform.
I think so. It's a little bit tricky because it's so entertainment based. I mean, really, people are there's a little bit of inspirational stuff like that you can see on there, but I would, at least maybe it's just my feed and the algorithm, but it tends to be 99% is like, you pretty much laugh at everything that you see. And how do brands engage with that? Because you don't necessarily want to be, you have to be like incorporate an element of humor to your brand, which is not so obvious for a lot of companies. If you're a healthcare business, I guess you can, just like any business you can, but it's very, very specialized, and
yes.
Comedy is its own specialized area. So yeah, like I said, we're paying close attention. We appreciate it a lot. If people have good examples of how it's been done well, what we don't want is for it to be overcrowded with, advertisers that are just trying too hard. It just doesn't land well. Where people have like a bad implementation. It'll be funny, but for the wrong reasons. Like a bad joke. So, but yeah, curious. And as a marketer, it certainly makes it interesting because it's every day something new. I mean, the trends are so dynamic. Like just one week is this trend, and next week is a different trend, and the next week. So it's like very, very difficult to be proactive. You almost have to think through your strategy very clearly, because if you can't commit to it, then you almost look bad because you just tried something trying to chase the audience, chase the clout. You really have to be centered, I think, for just so you can have your brand consistency. Of course, brands must be consistent. It's the key.
Mm. So, Jim, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think you're always on TikTok. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm always on TikTok. What I mostly notice for TikTok content creators when they are collaborating or have a partnership with a brand is that they don't really go all out with it. So, for example, they release a video. You won't notice that it's a brand promotion until the end of the video, or when when they use subtlety, when they just mention the product and not outright, hard sell it to the audience. So it can still be part of their content. It can still be a part of their video without really promoting too much of the product. Is that how it is in Australia as well?
Yeah, and I think the creators too are actually quite conscious that they need to respect their audience. So they definitely wouldn't take that risk to try to, even if for a paycheck, they wouldn't do it because it's their livelihood. So to have something that's not authentic or seems like a bit of a sales pitch, I don't think there's any going back. Once you start going down that path, your audience realizes, oh, this is what we can expect from now on, and I think they might just move on. So it's probably scary. It's a scary balance between how does an influencer try to monetize, and you can see it even a lot of YouTube shows that I watch. As soon as I see that they're going down that path, I can't help it. I'm like, I think that's it. I'm gonna move, and it's perhaps not fair to them, but I just think that someone's in their ear and they're thinking it's just bad advice. There's probably other ways to do it.
Yeah.
So but it's again a fun space. It's very dynamic. So anybody wants to get into marketing, it's best time as ever just to be at least have I do believe everyone's got a bit of a marketing brain. It's just whether or not you want to be in it as a career, but it's multifaceted. I think you just have to be paying a lot of attention to what works.
So we're down to our last question before our fast talk. So yes, Scott, what brand do you think is doing digital first that you admire most today? Is there any particular brand that you follow that is doing digital first?
Yeah, interesting. I think that there's the two ones that come to mind. I'll mention it right now. So I work a lot with equipment, testing out things, because in providing marketing and a lot of this content stuff, you need the right experience, the right camera, the right audio equipment, the right microphone, just because without that, it can fall over. So you just need the bare minimum of what's acceptable for quality. And the company I like a lot is Insta360. I don't know if you've heard of them, but when I was in the Philippines doing some vlogging, I would walk around with the Insta360 camera, and it's got a bit of a unique look to it. It's a big, looks like a big eyeball on the end of a stick. Anyway, so they do some really unusual stuff because their product is so unique. They really have built this whole digital community around it. Of course, like as a camera, it's kind of like the GoPro model. You film something spectacular and they're encouraging people to upload it and share it. And so it's just the whole thing is baked into like absolutely a digital experience and sharing, and you're really empowering your end user to contribute. So I think that's really, really powerful. So I really like what they're doing. And it's a bit, I guess it's wide open. They're able to go beyond borders, and they're encouraging, even though it's a very Chinese driven company. So that I find that interesting too, to see how they've been able to do international business. And they've absolutely smashed GoPros, for example. So GoPro is not doing well at all. Insta360 is like stealing the market share, and it's doing quite well. So yeah, I just think it's a fun way to have the product experience and then fed back into showing people use the product, and you get some spectacular footage, and there's not a big barrier to entry. Like they've actually, it doesn't cost anything to upload or anything like that. There's no like monthly membership or anything barrier. So I think that's a smart thing to do. The other one that comes to mind is actually maybe more of an everyday brand for people that are traveling, which is Scoot Airlines. Have you heard of Scoot? So yeah, I was amazed actually to see them. I remember when they first started launching in Australia, it was like low cost, and people think immediately, oh, this is scary, like a low-cost flight. Surely it will be terrible and a bad experience. But to see them, that was like 5 or 6 years ago. To see them now, and I saw them in Singapore, and all I saw were scoop planes. Boom, 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 boom. The whole thing is like taking over, and they're of course related and owned by Singapore Airlines. But just the way they do, I mean, it's an airline, it's a flight, it's not necessarily a digital experience, but everything that impresses me from them is digital. So I get email communication with some clever like upgrade programs where you can bid to get into business class. It's not a set price. You can just, so it makes it very, very interactive. And
Gamified. It's like they gamified it. Like you
Yeah,
really
exactly.
need to bid on that? That's
Yeah, so it's sort of like name your price, and you might win, So yeah, it's, again, that's, to me, feels very digital first, where they're thinking the last thing in the experience chain is you get on the plane and you have your meal. The rest of it is like, ideas about planning the trip and like extra, make it a friendly experience the whole way through. And the colors and the booking, a lot they've done, like the website interface is really clean. It helps. I feel like they know me as a target user, because I'll only fly when it's really cheap, and so they make it very easy to do that. They don't hide it. They don't try to upsell me and force me into a situation where like, it's not so clear. I don't know if I got the best deal. When I use the website, I absolutely know I got the cheapest price in the whole year, and if that's not what I want, then I'll go for something else. But they give you the tools. It feels very transparent. So I like that. I feel like that technology was probably I don't know if it was Singapore Airlines is corporate strategy or if it's like a more stealth brand within. But yeah, they're very, obviously people are getting confident in booking, and ultimately the customer service experience has to be fulfilled. So it is totally fine and comfortable to be flying on there as well. I mean, I don't know about the meals. I again didn't book any airline food, so bring your own.
That's interesting. So it's Insta360 and Scoot. Okay. So G, please do the fast talk. I'm not sure if you know it already, Scott. It's very popular here in the Philippines.
Goodness, I'm ready. I will listen carefully and I will answer as best I can.
Well, I just have 5 questions here, and we call it fast talk because you just have to answer on top of mind. What's on the top of your mind? You don't need to think hard. What's the first thing that comes to mind? Just answer it. Right?
Split second of answer.
Got it.
Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right. Books or movies?
Movies.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Top 3 favorite Filipino food?
Oh, so I'm going for sisig. I'm going to go for Jollibee spaghetti, and I'll go for the little mango Jollibee pie.
All right. So what do you miss most about the Philippines?
SM. I like those SM malls where you can just get everything. And I also like the discount malls, like where they sell like the gray market goods. I just absolutely love those.
All right. And for the final questions, do you follow the digital first approach?
Yes, absolutely. We do it. We recommend it. We'll follow your take on it. I do love what you guys are doing.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yes.
Do you have anything else to say, Scott, to our viewers?
No, just I encourage everyone to, explore what it means to them. There's lots of room. One thing that we didn't cover was basically audio podcasts. I don't know if it's clear, everyone. I was a big believer that to do podcasting, we needed to be visual because it actually forces yourself as the creator to evaluate what you're doing. You can see yourself. You can see how the guest reacts. It's a really good feedback tool for art, like research and development. You can see how it is. But the audio side of things, actually, that's where all of our listeners actually are. So we didn't get a large YouTube following because we didn't push and pursue that from a marketing point of view. And it only was really celebrated by the guests. They would go back and share the episode with their audience, and that was a really valuable tool for them. But still to this day, we can check our audio metrics. I think that there's a lot less competition. So if you think about learning more about that, monetization is a bit tricky, but if there are listeners, huge amount of people listening. So you wouldn't know it until you look at the report. So just wanted to highlight that audio podcasting is there. Now, monetization of that is not necessarily so obvious, and not like you get paid for views, but it's something to explore.
Awesome.
All right.
That's
Thank you
something
very
you will
much.
remember. Audio podcast. Okay.
You have just listened to the MarkeThinkers Podcast powered by Emerge. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode, and thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope you're living with bits and pieces of new learnings from your MarkeThinkers. Again, my name is Jim,
And I'm Carissa.
and together with our special guest, Scott, reminding you that digital first is the new rule. Thank you for listening. Until next time. Now, wave goodbye.
Bye.